Welcome to the Craig and Greg Show, presented by Maximize Leadership. Now, here are Craig Owens and Greg Harris.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Craig and Greg Show. I'm Craig. This is Greg. Hey, in our previous episode, we were challenging you to look deeper, look on the inside to see what's going on there, not just be so concerned about what's on the outside. And if you took the time to do that, there might have been some spots that you went, oh, didn't notice that before. I think we all have those blind spots. And I found that I'm going to tell on myself, there are some times that when I've discovered something that I didn't like so much that I'll say, I wonder if anybody else noticed this, because maybe I could like just kind of put it back in the blind spot area and not have to deal with it.
In the closet.
But we can't do that. So once we see them, I think we do have to deal with them because one of the inside things we talked about was being a person of integrity. Yeah. And the person of integrity would say, yes, this area needs work, and so I'm gonna work on this area. But the word that you wrote down in some notes that we were sharing was the word vulnerable. Because if you're going to deal with some of that inside stuff, you probably can't do it on your own. Right. So you're going to have to come to somebody and be vulnerable and say, and that's hard to do.
Hard, yeah. I mean, pride is probably one of our bigger factors as humanity as we, fall apart a little bit. Vulnerable also maybe makes us feel like we're not as strong in their eyes.
Sure.
Almost like a performance as a leader. Yep. And I think really what they want to see is they want to see the real. Right. But it's not easy. It's scary, obviously. I think blind spots for me, we can use a football analogy in a little bit in our episode here, but I think blind spot to me is an Achilles heel. Like it could be something that you could use well, right? Sure. But it also could be used against you, or you could hurt yourself or others that we're working with or serving, leading. And the Achilles is not very fun. I actually had that injury and that surgery and the recovery, and it's a big one. But again, that's the Achilles is a mythology, right? Isn't so he was a warrior and he
vulnerable only in that one spot.
In that one spot. Everything else was shielded and guarded, and had gear on, etc. And I think the Achilles for a lot of leaders varies. Male and female, could be industry, could be age, could be generation. What would be one that you have maybe seen be an Achilles heel, a blind spot for leaders that got them? Maybe?
Well, I don't know. I'll use myself as an example. I remember.
Can I take notes?
I took a lot of notes on this. I would carefully prepare like a presentation, talking to my team, and lay this stuff out, and people would be sitting there nodding their heads like, yeah, this is great. And then I was a little frustrated that like I didn't see the follow through that I would have expected. All right, well, I'll try again. Get to work on my computer, come up with this great presentation, make this presentation to the people, get a lot of people nodding their heads, and still don't see the same like. And I started thinking, what's wrong with these people? I mean, I would have thought the same thing. I'm giving them good stuff, and how come they're not acting on it? And one day, just before one of our meetings, I'm just talking with a couple of staff members, and one of a gal that was fairly new to our team, she said something like, I didn't understand that. And I said, you didn't understand what? She said, when you were talking about that thing with, and she's trying to, I said, oh, you didn't understand that? And she said, yeah, I probably don't understand about half of what you say.
Whoa.
And I'm like, all of those hours that I spent coming up with that stuff, and it was just going in this year and out this year. And so I was like, man, I got to make some big changes. Yeah. So that hurt to hear her say that, and I'm like, my first response, though, was be like, well, you're just not very intelligent. If you were, I wanted to turn, that was my first response inside my head. I wanted to turn it back on her. Fortunately, I bit my tongue and was like, Yeah. It's on me. Mm-hmm. I got to do that. So I think that we're getting a lot of invaluable information from people around us if we will really listen to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Or if I would have been more astute, I would have said, okay, why are they not following through on what I just said to them? It's on me that I'm not communicating for them to get it. I was making it on them. That why aren't you getting it? And so there's a lot of signals around us if we'll pay attention to them.
If we pay attention, it means that we maybe slowed down, right?
Yes.
Versus, we go in with our to-do list and, check it off and task-oriented. And then we find out, people really didn't get what we were saying in your situation. I'm going to add to that one. I think sometimes I've had it where they didn't like what I said.
Oh, sure.
And I assumed that they were in agreement. So yours might have been, I didn't get it. Mine might have been, well, I didn't like what you said. Oh, I didn't even sense that.
Sure.
So I think awareness, so did I not do it well? Did I do it right? Did I set it up? Do they need to know I love them and no matter what, And it really isn't about HR conversations. This isn't a blind spot. This is more about us as leaders, because we'll lose impact, if our Achilles heel keeps coming up.
Right. Because that is the spot where we're vulnerable,
right?
And we haven't even seen it.
Yeah, I think slowing down might be one of mine. I was going to share that I think one of my Achilles heels would be impatience.
Sure.
Hey team, come on, get going. This our client, or hey, what else can I do? You're making me nervous. Well, I'm looking over your shoulder because the client's right here in the boardroom waiting for, And so I think impatience, because of the client, ruined the patience I should have given to my teammates. But that's a blind spot when you're kind of in a rush, or you want to accomplish a lot. Yep. So maybe we'll have this as one of our podcasts. I've really been wrestling with this as a leader. Productivity. I love productivity. Unfortunately, not everybody's wired that way. Some of them are wired for, they want pure. They want to do it right. I'm just saying, let's get it all done. Even if it doesn't look great right away, we can fix it up, clean it up. And some are more processors. I'm more quicker. And that has got me in trouble, because they felt inadequate. Like, he just comes up with this. He handled that so fast. I'm still processing good morning,
Yeah.
So I think that's one of our challenges, Craig, as we lead teams and serve people.
Yes.
Is everyone's different. So someone in that group, if I was in your group there, mine might have not have been, I didn't understand. I was like, it took you that long to get the point across? Like, let's get to the freaking point. Let's go. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm going to do that. Just get me out there, And I'm not doing anything in my chair, I think part of blind spots is exactly that. So I won't say which of my kids did this, but they had a car and there was a pretty good blind spot. Like, the framing of the vehicle was pretty big. And so if you didn't look a little farther, you'd have thought the lane was clear to make your lane change. And that blind spot cost one of my kids because they fendered somebody and just moved over and went back. And of course, we had an accident. And it wasn't a huge issue, but the blind spot, even driving, because we do a lot driving really involuntary. Did I use my blinker?
Right.
Did I take this highway? I passed my friend's house, or I wasn't paying attention. So I think the blind spot is sort of tough when we're moving in a vehicle. But I think as leaders, even if we're hoping to accomplish something, the blind spot could be impatience. That's what I would say.
Sure.
Maybe assumptions that you have what you need to do the job we're asking you to do.
Yep.
That could be, and then you go after them because they didn't get it done in time. And you're like, sir, I had 3 hours to get a 6-hour job done. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Right.
So what do you think about blind spots? Why do we avoid them? Why it's not fun, obviously. We can use a football analogy if you want, but Why is it not enjoyable? Why isn't it right on our radar?
Well, I think that it's, there's a term that's called unconscious incompetence. And that's, we're not good in an area, but we don't even know that we're not good in that area. So it's, I'm not so concerned about like people that are in that spot because they just simply don't know that they're not any good there. But it's when you become aware of something, like, is your first response going to be, well, those people need to, instead of turning it back on myself. And that's why I love, some of the verses in Proverbs in the Bible that talk about a good friend really loves you enough to hurt your feelings, to speak the truth to you, to say, hey, you are unconsciously incompetent. There's a spot way back here that you can't see.
Can't even reach.
And I believe that if you knew about it, you would do something about it and you'd get better there. This is a spot that's holding you back.
But that's development. That's a leader.
Yeah,
really.
and that's hard to do. Listen, it's hard for a person to point it out to somebody, to say, hey, listen, you might get mad at me for saying this. You might want to bite my head off for pointing this off, but look at what just happened back here. But when you know somebody really cares about you and wants you to get better, then you'll listen to them, and hopefully then you'll say, oh yeah, now that that's out of my blind spot and it's over here, I see it. Ooh, look at that thing. I am no good at that spot. What am I going to do to get better there?
I know sometimes we use sports a lot in life and leadership discussions, but peripheral vision, I played a lot of sports, so have you, and you did well, and I did well. The persons that had great peripheral vision were amazing on the court, in the field, on the track, because they just had presence. The ones where they had the horse blinds up, and that's a visual, but yeah, just I went in here and nothing went well. Did you look at everything around you? Well, no, I had the blinders on, and in a sulky race for a horse, that's why they put them on, so the horse doesn't see another horse. Right. Because if they see a horse like, hey, my friend's here, no, stay, that's the track, Right. I think blind spots generally are exactly that, something that we had no clue we were vulnerable about.
Right.
Like we had some chink in our armor.
Yep.
It isn't ignorance, like we're going to ignore it, or like I don't even know what you're talking about. It's we really have no clue.
Right.
Like I'm going to assume I communicate clearly, and I look in the audience and like, not a chance.
Right. How do I know that I'm communicating clearly?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. A blind spot that you've had to maybe work through with a person as a leader, like let's say you were developing them, maybe they were accountable, reported to you, or whatever. You were the leader and you're trying to help them. Do you have one you're like, this really shook their world when we pointed it out, or it became obvious?
Yeah. There's been a couple of times where I'll ask questions like, okay, and then what happened? Okay. All right. Now let's go back to this other scenario. What happened when this? Oh, did you just see a common theme there? And sometimes they're like, no. Well, didn't you see that this was happening in your life at both times? And then it's usually that.
I love that. It's a privilege as a leader. It isn't like, yeah, I got you. It's like, hey, you got it.
Right.
Sweet.
And so that's why, and I found, like I said, it could be difficult to point it out to somebody. I found that asking questions is a better way to do it. Let them discover it. Yeah. Hey, did you like that outcome? Yeah, probably not, huh? What do you think that you do differently? Well, when you had this before, did you notice anything similar? And let them discover it. Yeah. And then I think that's where you go to the next, if you're involved in their life. Okay, so it was unconsciously incompetent. Now they brought it over here. Now they're conscious of their incompetence. And now you can say, can I help you get to a place where this is no longer going to hold you back?
I wonder about assumptions, maybe as another leadership thing for me. assuming the person got it.
Yep.
Assuming the person's ready to take on the, woolly mammoth. A person's ready to have the microphone and do the MC of the meeting. Your previous episode was, I'd like to be in your shoes.
Right.
Well, it takes a lot of work just to get here. I mean,
right.
I didn't make this by a miracle.
Yeah.
I think assumptions might be one for me, like a leadership blind spot. I worked in a group where this was pretty toxic. The word toxic is overused, but favoritism.
Oh.
So you're leading a group of 100, right? But you got 11 that are your favorite. The other 89 are probably not going to perform at the ultimate level.
Sure.
And you're assuming they are, but you don't give them the time.
Right.
Or you don't have a system to help them. I wonder about favoritism. What do you think about that?
Oh, sure. I think that, you could have somebody, and maybe it's not your favorite, but you just say, I know when I give the project to this guy, I know how he's going to run with it.
Yep.
And I don't have time to try to teach somebody else, so I'm just going to keep giving it. Well, everybody else just goes, what are we here for?
What am I, chopped liver?
Yeah. And so I think that they do have a tendency to check out. And again, it's like I watch the body language. The people, they just kind of, you see, when, okay, I need to hand off this project, and you see, the 89 people in the room. They all sit back because they know, I'm not going to be the one
the
that gets
teacher's
that.
pet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, I think as leaders, we could have a blind spot towards somebody because
good or bad.
Yeah.
Really.
Right. Just because we say, well, I know that they can perform, so I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, all right, well, I've got somebody else over here that could be an emerging leader, and if I were to spend a little time there,
yeah.
But we get so busy, we're like, what's the shortest route to get this done? Oh, this guy, he'll get it done. Okay, now I don't have to think about it anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's not that you wouldn't go to your, like, if you're a baseball coach and you got some home run hitters, you want people on the base so they can hit home runs and score more runs. So that there's a home run hitter. This one's not a home run hitter. This is a single. This is a fielder's choice batter, whatever. I think for even myself, if my expectations are high and I haven't helped them raise theirs,
right,
I'm probably going to get frustrated. And I can say that in my leadership, I've had frustrating experiences where I've acted frustrated and the damage is tough.
Yes.
Like, geez, Pete, here we go. I got to apologize, grovel, and buy
because
them.
once people see that frustration from you,
and then they don't come to you, they'll go. So if I was the one frustrated at Mary's going to go to you next time.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
I don't want his frustration.
Right.
It wasn't even wrath. It was just, I know
No.
you're upset with me and I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
So I think there are so many blind spots. We'll use a sports one. There's a movie, A Blind Spot.
Blindside.
Blindside, which is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Blind Spot was that,
Yeah.
but Blindside, they couldn't use Blind Spot because I think it was trademarked. But Blindside was the left tackle protects the quarterback. Because if he's right-handed, you're the left tackle. I'm going to throw this way. I'm looking out this way. I'm not looking, hey, I wonder if everybody's coming. You've got a blind spot. You've got a blind side. And often in the NFL, it's the highest paid lineman.
Right.
Because he's protecting the quarterback. So it's the blind spot, whatever that. So your back's turned as a quarterback. I think maybe to segue on our episode here, having people in our lives, you've been that for me, always hasn't been easy. I didn't make great decisions every time. I didn't have crazy success every decade. And you were there, to say, no, that's okay. Let's figure this one out. You got what it takes, but you just maybe misapplied it, or you made a mistake, or you made a poor judgment, or you acted poorly. Make it right. So I think having someone like that where you can say, I can be vulnerable. I can show you some of my flaws, but you have my best interest. You're not using it against me.
Right. Yes.
And I think getting back to a blind spot for me, trust. To build trust in an organization, for me to trust you to help me to be a better leader, it's just an awesome merry-go-round of trust. Like, if I can trust, I can get better. Distrust? Probably not.
Right.
Well,
so I wonder, you and I have done a lot of projects together and business things together, but when it comes down to like career, we're in two different careers. Do you think that helps me to be able to speak into your life and you to speak into my life, because you're going to see things differently? Like if you and I were in the trenches together, running an organization together, would I be able to see that same stuff in you? Would you be able to see it in me? I think that's the part of the beauty of somebody that's attached to you, loves you, cares about you, but a little bit of distance.
Removed a little
bit.
bit.
So that maybe, yes, we are in the trenches in some respect, but as far as like the day-to-day grind, there's been very few times that you and I have been like involved in something where we're with each other every single day doing the grind.
Right.
So that might be part of it too, that because maybe you and I would develop mutual blind spots if we were right there together every day.
I think that's pretty accurate, brother. I think if you're in the same org or you're in the same field, you're going to say things that are either trite or simple or service or or you talk shop.
Right.
And shop sometimes means gossip. So I just said it.
Code words. Yep.
Yeah. So, but I think for each of us that have had a valley or two, or I've had 17, but so you got to catch up. But there were, you had a valley where I chased you down, and it's like, all right, bro, I'm gonna. This is not accurate. What is happening is not. It's real, but it's not fair, equal, or just.
Right.
And you chase that person down, and I would say for both of us, and hopefully you have those people. If not, that's really the point of the whole blind spot. Find someone who has your back and can speak into your life, which you do to me, and it's accurate. It's not to keep me down.
Right.
It's not to make me feel bad. It's to actually make me better. And then you step back and say, okay, do it.
Right.
Let me see how you do this, and I'll be there with you the whole way. But before we even did this podcast, I think leadership is not an easy career. It's not an easy role. And for some to think they can do it alone is dangerous.
Oh, sure.
And I've learned, the hard way and the good way. Yeah, it's a lot more fun. If you have more hands to get the job done.
Yes.
Particularly if you trust the person to say, so did I do this okay, or I'm wrong, or what would you suggest I try something different? Hence kind of coaching, which we love to do, mentoring, pastoring, just being a covenant brother that you are. That's one of our words, because you care.
Right.
And you don't want me to fail. You're not going to use it to make you feel better.
Right.
And that's our challenge with blind spots is, yours is worse than mine. Oh, great. Now we both have, now we're rating them. You know, our goal is to get rid of blind spots. And I think it's there's a book, we've chatted about it before. Patrick Lencioni is a good author, good guy. And it's called Get Naked. And the whole theme of the book, it's not a naughty book. Relax. It's a book about being vulnerable and being open to people, because it's very tough for you to follow me if he's got skeletons.
Well, and
he's being difficult.
And you're not going to be vulnerable with somebody who is going to use that vulnerability against you. No. And so I think that there is sometimes that you are going to have to maybe be just a little vulnerable with somebody to see how do they handle that.
Yeah.
What do they do with that? Do they
use it? Gossip.
Right. Do they go out and start talking to somebody? You know what he told me?
Yeah.
Or somebody that says, "Oh, you know what? I walked down that same road.
Yeah.
I know what you're going through. I handled, I didn't handle it very well the first time, but then here's what I learned from it. Can I share some of those lessons with you?" And then you can say, all right, well, maybe I can trust them a little bit more with something, because, you talked before, I think in a previous episode about people wanting things just click, click, click. You're not going to find somebody and then just go, all right, let me be vulnerable with you about everything in my life, because we are talking about blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, by its very definition, I've got spots that I don't know are blind spots. I can't be totally vulnerable with you like that. It has to be the other way around. I have to say, oh, you have been around to see my blind spots, and now I'm going to actually zip my lips and let you be the one that's going to be kind of pulling some of these things out for me.
As we kind of wrap this up, I think one word that most of us are afraid to say is, Craig, I'd like to be accountable with you.
Oh, yeah. Accountable is...
So with vulnerable, so I got to be accountable.
Yes.
So my tendency when I go on the road is to do this. So I want to be accountable and tell you I'm going on the road and I don't want to do that anymore. Or, push come to shove in this quarter, I sometimes fudge the numbers to win the sales contest. That's I want you to hold me accountable. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yep.
Or, when I'm a little short of money, I put a few more expenses on my report. So I think accountability is that role to maybe get over, but the blind spot is we're really blinded. You're not blinded on my blind spot.
Right.
It's not yours. It's mine.
Right.
And so when you say, watch out for the blind spot, you saw that? I can't. That's why it's called a blind spot.
Yep.
It's not a flaw. It's a blind spot.
Right.
And I think for most of us, we need the covenant brother or sister to, you got this, but I do need to talk to you about it.
Yep.
I love you that much. I respect you that much. I see you this way,
Yes.
not this way.
Yep.
And what a breath of fresh air for people as we lead them.
Absolutely. Well, and that's as coaches, I wouldn't expect that somebody would say, all right, I'm going to invite Maximize Leadership in to be a coach in my organization. That they're going to say, well, here, look at all of this kind of stuff. But we can get started in that thing, because we can help spot some things. And then hopefully what you would find then in your life is somebody that would be that covenant brother, that covenant sister that would come alongside, and somebody that you could be accountable to help you follow through on those things. So however we can help you, we'd love to do that. If you go to maximizeleadership.com, and you can check out the resources there, but especially the coaching page, fill out the form and tell us what you're looking for, and we'll get back to you on that. But you can start right now by finding somebody, and as we mentioned earlier, maybe it's not somebody that's already in the trenches with you every day.
Yes.
Maybe it's somebody that has been a faithful friend for a long time, somebody you go to church with, somebody that you say, you know what, they would have my best interest at heart. They're not going to use things that I'm going to share with them as a weapon against me, but they're going to come alongside to help. Find that person in your life, because they'll help you spot those blind spots and help you overcome them as you grow to other levels. So lean on us for resources. Message us on X or leave a comment below here on this video. Tell us what you think. Maybe share some ideas with us of topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We want to be here to resource you. So stay tuned. Lots more content coming your way real soon.
Get in touch with Craig and Greg through Twitter at Maximize Podcast or at MaximizeLeadership.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of The Craig and Greg Show.